1 out of every 5 students report being bullied. 13% were made fun of, called names, or insulted. They were pushed, shoved, tripped, or spit on. 1 in 5 tweens have been cyberbullied. It's a problem, and it has to stop. Welcome to Bully This, a hero's journey. There's light at the end of the tunnel. Our passion is to show kids that there is life after bullying. You'll hear from former bullies and bullying victims, and you'll hear how they made their journey from troubled youth to successful adults. Welcome to Bully This, a hero's journey. Now your hosts, Tyler Copenhaver Heath and Clifford Starks.
Hello and welcome to Bully This. I'm Tyler.
I'm Clifford.
And we're going to start today as our first episode. So you'll have to forgive us. We're, new to this, but we're doing everything we can to do a decent job for you. We want to go over, as much as I hate this Silicon Valley term, our whys. There is an importance in whys in business and in life and why you would do a podcast like this. So I'm going to first let Cliff go. Then I'll go into our whys. We're going to talk a little bit about the podcast. And then we're actually, as our first episode, I'm going to interview my co-host here, Cliff. So, Cliff, what's your why? Why do you want to do this?
My why is I am a fighter. I've always been a fighter. And I know there's a fighter in everybody. And I just happened to find mine super early. The greatest feeling is when you utilize it appropriately. And so on my journey, I say I'm a fighter who fights by your side. And I'll also teach you how to fight along the journey, because life's a fight. It's hard. But the fight can also be easy. It just comes down to learning the right strategies, the right techniques, the right process, so that you can show up in your best light and have your best life and provide to others along the way. So that's my why.
You're going to ask me what my why is?
What is your why? I thought you were just going to say it.
So to keep it somewhat succinct, and, I tend to derail a little bit, but I have certain passions that I can't help. And there's this, I don't even know how to describe it within me. It's deeper than a pain. It's deeper than a soul. It's deeper than a heartache. It's like there's this special component that sometimes gets struck in me. And one of the things that I'm passionate about, or what bugs me, or, it makes me feel a little helpless, is things of a nature that, bully is a perfect word, like bullying in business, bullying in life, bullying, a dog being abused, a kid being abused. These are all bully things, right? So when I watched a documentary called Bully, I watched that documentary and I looked at it and I saw, and it struck me as such a sadness deep in that part that I can't explain, that I had to help somehow. And I couldn't figure out how to help. I've actually been thinking about this for about a year. And I went through this structure of, well, maybe we can help by just getting kids in the MMA gym, and that'll give them confidence. And, I even put out a post that said, hey, I'll go anywhere in this country. And because it's a hard thing to do to first walk into your first MMA gym. So I'll walk you into the gym, get you a community there. They'll realize that there's extremely nice people there. They're not bully type personalities, contrary to popular belief. And maybe that's the answer. And then I started thinking, that's not specifically the answer, because not everybody's into training. Not everybody's into fitness. And so maybe the answer was more towards, people finding their passions, whether that be music or art or, history or anything, finding that passion, finding a way to get into that community, and then finding some purpose around that and some confidence around that. Mm-hmm. And, so it was, my why is struck from this feeling of helplessness. How am I going to help? I can't ride the bus with every kid. I see this documentary that just breaks my heart, and it's like, I need to do something about this. So I actually reached out to one of the fathers from the documentary, and we emailed back and forth. He got back to me really quickly, actually. And he talked to me about, or I asked him, if we developed a podcast and we showed people that were bullied, and then they came from bully to doing something amazing, whether that be music or arts or history or whatever, that was amazing, would it help kids? And he seemed to think so. And one thing that inspired me about the guy is Mr. Smiley. I hope I didn't get that wrong. One thing that inspired me is he's not the type of guy that wants to be on TV. You can tell. Mm-hmm. He's a very salt of the earth man. You could tell he's breaking out of this mold of comfort to help his kid, and keep his kid's name alive. And one of my biggest fears is something I'm working on this year too, and that's sharing more. I had a company that was very, what do you say? People thought it was pretty cool. We got offered reality shows doing it. I held back my own business, by not wanting to be in any sort of spotlight. So I'm breaking my own comfort level down because I think that the first step we can start to help is awareness, and if we can make people aware and show them light at the end of the tunnel, then maybe that's half the battle. So,
yeah, I love it. That's
an
amazing why.
And to make impact about something you're frustrated in, right? Amen. So as our first episode, Cliff is going to actually be our guest today. So Clifford Starks, and I'm going to talk Cliff up a little bit because he's a humble guy. So I know Cliff really well, so this is pretty easy to do. We've been training partners for about, 10, 12 years, something in that manner. We've traveled the world.
Time flies, doesn't it?
It does. Absolutely. We've traveled the world together. I've been lucky enough to corner Cliff in some fights. One of the crazier experiences was going to Chechnya.
That was interesting.
I don't even think they were allowing American tourists there at the time.
Yeah.
They, remember the president signed our visas just to get us into the country. Mm-hmm. And Cliff and I thrive off these kind of experiences too. New experiences, new people. We can find love in all people and cultures.
Yes.
We had people running up to us on the streets. Remember the old man that came up to me and hugged me and said, "Welcome to the country," or the kids, that were everywhere wanting to take photos with us. Yeah. So, I digress a little bit, but so Cliff and I have had quite a few experiences together. I know Cliff's heart really well. And Cliff, like me, loves fitness, has a passion for people, has a heart for people. Beyond that, he's done some pretty incredible stuff in his life already. So I'm just going to skip to ASU. Yep. So kinesiology major from ASU, inspired to help people because, and you'll pardon me for saying this, you were a little bit of a heavy kid, and so you wanted to help others with that, weight issue, and that confidence issue. And that's actually pushed you into not only getting people fit physically, but fit mentally. Would you say that's
absolutely?
And working with a lot of people and developing confidence and things like that. So, Cliff was an excellent wrestler at ASU while juggling the kinesiology degree. Cain Vasquez's wrestling partner, which is no easy task. Yep. If you folks aren't MMA fans, maybe if you aren't, you probably know that name. He was heavyweight champion of the world. Cain's known to be an absolute animal. Couldn't have been the easiest training partner. Persevered there. Make you better?
Oh yeah. In so many ways.
Do you want to input anything on that? I know we talked about Cain and training with him a little bit.
There's a saying, iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
And so one thing that I always do is focus on going into whatever it is that I'm going into and taking the learning experiences along the way and sharing those learning experiences with other people.
Yeah.
To remind them that you're more capable than even they know about.
Yeah.
Just stretching yourself, going out of the comfort zone.
Well, and if that wasn't a challenge, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
So then there was that big, what do you want to say, push, where a lot of the wrestlers from ASU, and this is what kind of started the UFC off too. These were the original champions that all came over, a lot of them from ASU, a lot of wrestlers. So you kind of went where they went, which was Arizona Combat Sports. Trevor Lally, who's been our coach for a long time. And Trevor's trained some of the greatest champions in the world. He's still into it, still doing it, you know. And you went in and told Coach Trevor, you know what? I'm going to get to the UFC in a year.
Yeah.
And Trevor, being the coach he is, he said, no way. I'm not going to swear there, but he said, no way. That's impossible, not going to happen. Yeah. And the guy is a guy that kind of knows, but
yeah.
I mean, what's great is you knew when to listen and when not, because guess what? Cliff made it to the UFC in a year.
Yep.
So, and then he took on some huge fights right away, which doesn't usually happen when you get to the UFC. Usually they kind of build you up a little bit. Cliff first fight Ed Herman, or was that second fight?
No, that was the second fight.
Okay.
So the first fight was Dustin Jacoby.
Oh yeah, another good fighter.
UFC again, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So not the fairest lineup, and then some other challenging opponents. Even fought Yoel Romero.
Yeah.
Yoel was champion for a while too, wasn't he?
No, but he has fought for the title 3 times now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know he took an unlucky knee in that fight.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
He caught me with a good one, and it was funny because when I got caught with it, it was partially my fault too.
Yeah.
You know, giving him a little bit too much not respect, I want to call it, but I actually didn't give him enough respect, actually, and that's what got me in trouble.
And we'll probably go into that a little bit more later too, because I think you have an interesting story around that. But the point is, you know, 1 year you're out there fighting some of the greatest fighters in the world, you know, and traveled all over the world doing it amazingly. And here's the part that if Cliff and I hadn't been friends for 12 years, that I couldn't say in this interview because I wouldn't know. I know Cliff as a banner for a good person. So you walk into a gym and you're an ex-UFC fighter at that gym. You are a hero. You are a celebrity to that community for sure. And I feel that you played that part really well in the manner of showing humbleness, showing coaching, showing heart for people, you know, not this badass UFC fighter that's going to beat everybody down. You encouraged people and helped people and coached them up, you know, when they came in, showing your heart, you know. Yeah. So, and it's probably hard to keep your ego in check when all of a sudden you're fighting some of the best people in the world.
Not for me, just because of the process that I went through.
Yeah.
You know, we're all going through different processes.
Yeah.
And I just got humbled through life super young.
So Cliff is nothing like the man you would think he is from the outside. You know, there's a lot of complexity there. There's, you know, I like to say this, we train our muscles, right? Yep. But the muscle I'm most proud of in life that I train the hardest on is my heart.
Yeah.
And I feel like you're the same way.
Yeah, agree.
And I can tell that from our time together. So that's Clifford. I hope I did a good enough job, you know, telling you how amazing Cliff is, because there's not words. I don't have enough command of the English language to tell you succinctly, but that's an overview.
Yeah,
so
I'm honored, brother. Thank you.
Yeah. So this is the first episode in your interview. So that's your intro. And the way we're going to work this is, did I tell you about the hero's journey?
A little bit.
Okay. So the hero's journey is based on a book that was written by Campbell. And Campbell basically, he studied all these fables throughout the world. And he found these similarities in these fables. You know, it didn't matter whether it was from an African culture, from a European culture, from a Asian culture. There was similarities to these stories. And these stories are deeply psychologically grounded in us. And so the book, A Hero of 1,000 Faces, hits on this warrior's journey. The theme that matches and is most psychologically impactful for every member of the world today. Because we have this deep ancestral understanding of this type of story. Mm-hmm. And this is the same story we're going to tell here.
Yeah. Awesome.
In a way.
Yeah.
So we're going to go on the hero's journey. And the hero's journey starts, and we'll develop this as we go along through the podcast series, but the hero's journey starts with this kick of initiative that puts you on a different path. And sometimes that kick of initiative is good, and sometimes it's bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in this case, as much as you and I are positive people, we're going to focus on some bad. And we're going to talk about the subject of bullying. And we're going to talk about the stories that will be relatable to the kids about your experience with bullying.
Yeah.
So I would like you to disclose some of this insight into what it was like to be bullied and some stories so the kids can really understand, like, hey, this Clifford guy, he's a badass, but understand that he was once where you were.
I was, I may have been 3 at the time. But I know for sure I remember what happened when I was 4. I remember glimpses of certain things that happened when I was younger, though. And that was, I remember wanting to get on this Ghostbuster ride, right? And I was afraid. I was scared to get on the Ghostbuster ride. And I asked my dad if he would get on the Ghostbuster ride with me, and he wouldn't. And I remember just not getting on that Ghostbuster ride. And what's so crazy, fast forward to where I'm at now, I would have loved to take that kid, my younger self on that Ghostbuster ride, because I will never know what was there.
Sure.
Like I never got the opportunity to face it.
Yeah.
And my own dad didn't get on there with me to help me face it. And it hurt.
Sure.
It hurt. So I remember that moment. And I also remember him driving away. And I mean driving away where he didn't come back.
Yeah.
And I knew he wasn't coming back. And I actually remember, and this was when I was 4, I remember telling my mom that he wasn't coming back. And my mom would say, "Oh, he'll come and visit you." No.
You knew.
I knew. I was very good at reading energy at a very young age. And I don't want to get too woo-woo with people. But going through my journey, I'm realizing my talents and my gifts.
Yeah.
One of those talents is the ability to read energy. And I knew he wasn't coming back. And I had a decision to make on that day. And so I made the decision of, the world's a scary effing place, and you got to do your best to survive in it.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did.
So as you're going through adolescence, dad's gone, which I think, we're actually going to have a psychologist on the show next week to kind of analyze this stuff in depth from science. But as you're going along, dad's gone.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people look at that as protector. We look at mother first, and then I think we look at father as a different way, kind of alpha dog, leader of the pack, So now you don't have that protection. What's happening at school?
Yeah, so here's what was interesting. And my mom remarried when I was 6.
Okay.
And he was always there for me.
Yeah.
But I still had that thought, like, all right, well, one person who was supposed to be there can leave. So how do I know that this one's going to stay?
Sure.
So I had that in the back of my head. But I always did my best to do right by people. It was interesting. Like we talk about the heart, and that's one thing that I've always had.
Yeah.
I just had a heart for people, and I loved my mom, and I knew my mom loved him. And so I didn't know what to think of the situation. So I just played it out the best that I could. And he happened to have some really good advice along the way. But at school, I was the outside kid for quite a bit. And part of that,
how did that feel?
It sucked.
Yeah.
It was really, really hard. Because the thing with kids, they just want to fit in.
Yeah.
Like the goal is like, all right, how do I fit in? Well, the reason I couldn't fit in, I'm the only black kid at the school. Like they called it all white Tukey.
Yeah.
And so that's where I was. And I'm like, I'm screwed. I can't possibly fit in. Look at my skin color. I don't have a chance.
Yeah.
And it goes both ways, like an all black school with a white kid would probably be the same experience. Yeah.
Yeah. I went to school in Oklahoma. I was one of 3 white kids in the whole school.
Yeah. And so it's just kind of like, well, here we go. Like, let's go do this thing.
So as a young kid, what you're saying is like, when your first instinct is, I know I'm different, in this way, in comparison to everybody else in the school, you're saying you're almost starting on a left foot from the start, in your own mind, at least.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I just, I took it with what I had. I was in what I was in. The one thing that I always had, my mom told this to me, is just this confidence, this unshakable confidence. And I think it's partially generational. I would love to speak with a psychologist on this, and because I think it's interesting stuff. It's a very interesting topic. But I will say this, even if a person doesn't have confidence in them, it can be built in them.
I agree with that.
I've proven that over and over again. And so
that's why I think we have to find your greatness.
Yeah. Find the greatness within.
I call it, find that thing you're most passionate about and drive all forces towards it and find that,
Yeah. Whatever that anchor is for that person, they just need to find it. And so whether that be your message, my message, a combination of both of our messages, I don't really care. I just want them to get to the result.
Well, and that's what's interesting. So we drive home these theories, right? So I have this theory around directing everything towards a goal. If you're directing everything in life towards a goal, then that's your best chance for succeeding in it. I actually just read Will Smith's book. He thinks that like this too. Basically he talks about directing everything in life. He talks about fight camp at one point. Yeah. So his whole life is fight camp, and his his manager asked him, what's your loftiest goal in life? You need to define it. What's your loftiest goal in life? And he said, I want to be the best actor in the world, the most popular, the most money. And the manager sits back. He's like, now that's a goal.
Yeah.
And what's amazing about that is once you start to find that said goal, that you can direct everything towards it. Will worked out, like disciplined, studied, everything he could do to approach that goal, because this is lofty as that is as a goal. We do have a little bit of control of that because each time we're making a decision, we can make a decision to go away from the goal or go towards the goal.
Yeah.
And so I've done this actually 3 different ways. I've actually built and murdered a probability chart because I'm a nerd like that and showed mathematically how we can make decisions that align or push us away from the goal because that works for some people. That works awesome in my head. Yeah. I can just tell you it works for you. I know you well enough, but some people don't even see it that way. Yeah. Some people have to see, okay, what if the goal is the top of this mountain? Make the goal the top of this mountain. But you have to push this rock up it, right?
Yeah.
So most people, when they start their goal, they're like excited. I'm going to get this done. They're running with the rock, right? Pushing the rock. It's making all kinds of momentum, The problem is it gets tiring to push the rock. And then it's like, I'm only that far up this hill, And then you're like, I don't know about this. And then you make a decision. And it pushes the rock backwards.
Yeah.
And then you make another decision. And now you're spiraling out of control and the rock crushes you.
Yeah.
But what if you just fully move that? Every decision you're making is slowly moving that rock upwards,
Yeah,
and you get to the top of the mountain. That is the goal. Yeah. 3 different ways of saying the same thing, right?
Yeah,
but we never know what works for ourselves,
Yeah.
So back to, I really want you to, I know you don't want to do this because you're a guy that lives in the positive, but I really want you to tell a story that will hit home to a kid like Alex Libby from the documentary Bully. Here's a kid, nice kid, really nice kid. He gets on the bus and they're stabbing him with pencils, punching him. His parents don't even know what's going on. His sister was not so nice to him either. This kid is taking every beating he can take in life, What can you say about where you were to make him understand that you were that kid on the bus at one point too?
Yeah. So I call that the dark place.
Yeah.
And there's a place where it's so dark because you're just trying to survive and you don't even know how to do that.
Yeah.
Because you don't have any anchors.
Yeah.
Right. And without any anchors, life can become such a slippery slope. And just as you talk about that person who lets that rock fall on top of them, right, and smashes them and crushes them, they're in that position, and then they're just asking the question, like, well, what do I do now?
Yeah,
like I got this rock on me.
Yeah, but what was that rock? Is that
My
kids
rock?
teasing you, or that was, were these things that were placed on you by yourself, or was it from outside? Was there? I know we've talked about a redhead kid that bullied you for a while.
Yeah. I just wanted to be safe.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I wanted.
Yeah.
So my number one concern was like, okay, how do I get safe? When my biological dad drove away, I knew it was up to me in life.
Mm-hmm.
So I was given a gift
because
I saw it as such. And saying like, okay, So I know what it feels like to be safe, and I know what it feels like not to be safe.
Yeah.
You know, in that moment, I had a decision to make, and I was afraid because I didn't know what was next. I had a dad that was gone.
Well, dad's gone, and that, like, kids can be mean too, right?
Yeah.
Especially with difference,
Yeah.
you know?
And so now I knew, like, okay, I'm getting picked on. I don't like the way this feels.
Mm-hmm.
What can I do?
Yeah.
And then I start critically thinking.
Yeah.
It was interesting going through my journey. I thought everyone did that. I thought, like, this is life. This is what you get. Think through it.
Yeah.
Think through it. And so you talk about your heart being your most powerful muscle, and it is our most powerful muscle. But our mind is so powerful too.
Our mind is so powerful.
Yeah. And so I've always used my mind, and I get it. Like, the inspiration is so built in me that I go into that space and I go into that state. That's the world I know, because it's not when you practice it when life's hard. It's when when it's easy. It's when you practice it when life is hard.
Yeah.
And so what I will say is, I do know that dark place.
Yeah.
I do know that lost feeling. I do know all of that stuff. And I know it because I know what it feels like to get picked on.
Yeah.
I know what it feels like when people are using your words against you.
Yeah.
Or making it sound like you're something that you're not.
Yeah.
Or telling you that you're something that you're not. And it feels heavy.
Yeah.
Very heavy. It feels like a weighted sandbag on your back, your ankles, your wrist, everything.
Because it's got you afraid to even go to school and things like that. Things that you have to do in life. You have to go to school.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a very, very heavy feeling.
Yeah. I mean, you got to hand it to kids like Alex. Most people will never be that brave in life. You know, as much as he's taken a beating on the bus, he still gets on the damn bus every day. You know, that's a lot of courage.
Yeah.
More courage than somebody that grows up a bully with confidence will ever have in their entire life.
Yeah.
You know, and so I really want to get into I'm so excited for the therapist to come on next week, because I had a chance to talk to her and she's awesome, you know? And so, and I really want to go into some of this stuff more, but how to find that bad stuff happens in life, right? You know, you and I, as much as we're so close, him and I are actually 6 hours apart birthdays.
Yeah.
And we're really close and in our minds. But one way that we're polar opposites is Cliff is ultimate positive guy. And I'm not negative. And Cliff, you can vouch for this. I'm not a negative person. I'm always positive. It's very rare that you'll, except in pictures, that you won't see me smiling.
Yeah.
You know, I love people, you know, and so, but I've had a lot of painful things happen in life that I don't understand. And these things happen to everybody. I use that to fuel me. I use that anger, that pain. You'll never see it on the outside. I'm stoking the chimney inside. And I use that to get to where I want to be. You know, my bullies were not kids. My bullies were teachers. My bullies was the principal. You know, I had a father who was incarcerated. You know, that automatically made me some kid that was going to be, you know, following dad. In fact, the stat on that's like 95% of kids whose parents went to jail, their kids are going too, you know? Yeah. So, and here's these people in my life and they're telling me I'm stupid. I'll never amount to anything. You know, you're going to be just like your dad. You're going to be in there together, you know? And so, and at a kid's age, and I talked to the therapist a little bit about this too, like, cause I didn't know whether to bring this stuff up, you know, because we're trying to help kids that are getting bullied by kids. But I realized there's more than that. I've been talking to a lot of people when we're talking to guests or would-be guests about they've been bullied by their parents. You know, they've been bullied by adults. Yeah. They're getting bullied right now in their workplace. You know, and so I think there's a lot of complexity to this. You know, and so what I get at with this is if you have to use pain, you know, use some pain, and we'll talk to the therapist to make sure I'm not giving beyond, it works for me, so like I use that anger, and I was afraid as hell to go to college. I thought I was stupid. I was very nearly a high school dropout too. So it wasn't like I was winning the world there. I saw more value back then in a full-time job, and that's what I thought my destiny was.
Yeah.
And so I get to college, I have to start in all the most basic of classes. And what I found was I was actually doing really well. I wasn't this stupid person that everybody told me I was.
Yeah.
And so my biggest flip off to my old teachers and stuff, I'm like, what is the most complex degree I can think of? What's the biggest worded degree? Like I'm going to go get that. And biochemistry, that was it. So that was what set me on my path to biochemistry and getting a degree in biochemistry. So little did I know I would absolutely love it, because that nerdy brain of mine just absorbs science like no other. Like I find science and fitness and everything else. But I digress. What I really wanted to get to with that was talking to the therapist. There's different types of bullying, right? There's this like adults, kids, things like that. But beyond that, you were a big kid growing up.
Yeah.
Like a big boy. And you've had the power all along to fight off those bullies. It took getting the confidence to be able to do that. But now you got the other side of the coin. You got a kid like Alex Libby. Alex, don't take this the wrong way. You are not a monster like Cliff was. Cliff was a caged monster in his own head. So with Alex, he's not a big guy. And you and I, what's interesting about us, as much as we like training and as much as we like MMA, we don't solve our problems with fighting. It's a skill that we have, but you and I would never solve a problem with it. We meet somebody on the street, and they're doing something wrong. Yours and I's first instinct would not be, I'm going to fight this guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and that's the thing too. It's, it's like, there's that, you got to stand up for yourself. Yes, you do. And the therapist will weigh on this more, but that doesn't mean fighting.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean fighting the bully on the bus. I mean, what do you think about that?
Yeah. Like I look at the word fighting is such a beautiful word to me, because we can fight with this. We can fight with these ears. We can fight with our mouth. We can fight with our thoughts.
Yeah.
Right. And so one skill that you're talking about, one that I like to use personally, is negotiation.
Yeah.
I'm not here to I just have nothing to prove to anybody.
Yeah.
I've already proven enough and then some. I'll tell you a story. I had a friend of mine being a jackass. He's bumping into this guy at a bar, and the guy's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "What, you got a problem?" And my friend's being an idiot. He's bullying this guy.
Yeah.
Right? So the guy's like, "Yeah, I do have a problem." And my friend goes, "Well, you're going to have to take it up with me and my UFC fighter friend over here."
So he automatically roped you into this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Points towards me.
Yeah.
Now the guy can't possibly even beat me, but he's going to fight us both. He's triggered.
Yeah.
He's enraged.
Yeah.
So he's like, "F it, I'll fight both of you then."
Yeah.
And then I go, "All right. My friend is being an absolute idiot right now, and I apologize. Can I buy you a drink?" That's what I said.
Yeah.
And so the guy goes, "You're a cool shots on me."
Huh.
And so we take a situation.
Yeah.
And we turned it into something that was completely different.
Yep.
And that's what life's about. And I slapped my friend upside the head, like, "Dude,
yeah,
don't be that way. Like, that's stupid."
Yeah.
And I don't hang out with people who are like that. So what are you doing? They're like, "I know, I'm sorry. I was being an idiot." Like, yeah, you were. Don't do that anymore. And so it's important that we all keep each other in check. See, part of the thing, it's the checks and balance system.
Yeah.
Society's going to do what's comfortable to society.
So the therapist and I were talking, and what was striking, interesting in my head, and what goes along with what your story is the outside, right? And even in the warrior's journey, not to be a nerd and always bring that back in, but the warrior's journey has an advisor. And by the way, if you're wondering what the warrior's journey is and the clearest depiction to picture it in your head, think of Star Wars. Star Wars is actually built on the warrior's journey. So Obi-Wan comes in, right? And he guides Luke on his journey. So think of that. That's an outside force coming in, right? And you were an outside force coming into this conversation and you changed it. You know, you came in without any emotion to the situation, with a logical stance to the situation. There's this famous sniper named Chris Kyle, one of the top snipers in the world. There's a movie about him. Bradley Cooper plays him. And there's a part where his dad's talking and they're sitting at the dinner table. And he says to the kids, he's like, you can be a sheep in this world, you can be a wolf in this world, or you can be a sheepdog. And what he's getting at is the wolves are the bullies.
Yeah.
But you better be the sheepdog and going after the bullies. And so what I'm saying is there are those kids with confidence in the school. And that's all it takes is coming in and saying from a third party, why are you bullying this kid?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying fight the kid as much as deep down, as much as I'm not a brutal person. I can't stand bully either. So you'd like to see the bully getting the comeuppance, but you know, the moral of the story is I don't want that to happen either. You know, I don't believe in that either, as much as you want to see the bully get it a little bit. But then after the bully gets it, I don't even feel that good about it. You know, then I feel bad for the bully on a certain level, you know? And so, but my point is that outside influence, you know, you were that outside influence.
Yeah. So, you know, what's interesting, and this is a game that I like to play with people. The sheepdog, the sheep, and the wolf. What if all three of those reside in every single one of us?
I totally believe that.
Yeah. What if we get to choose?
We do
choose. I'm going to be the sheepdog. I'm going to be the wolf.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the sheep.
We do choose, but just like anything else, where you start is a longer journey for others, right?
That's what I love. That's what I love.
I know.
You're 100% right about that.
Because some of us start, you were the wolf as a kid, or excuse me, you were, you could have been the sheepdog, you could have been the wolf, or you could have been the sheep.
Yeah.
And I don't take this the wrong way. You were the sheep. You know, you could have easily been the other two, but it took some life experiences and some, what do you want to say? I mean, you got into football and wrestling later. I'm sure that developed some courage and some confidence, you know, and then you pushed through this journey a little bit more. I know you're not a bully, towards the sheepdog, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Because you're still that type of guy that's not going to allow bullying to happen.
Yeah, 100%. There's a picture where a kitten is looking at in a mirror and it sees a lion.
Yeah.
Right.
I love that picture.
Yeah. And so the game that I've always played, it didn't matter what I was, it mattered what I saw.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did stutter.
Yeah.
I did get picked on.
Yeah.
I didn't see that though.
Do you ever met that? Have you ever met that person out there that just has the most confidence? And I don't want to sound bad by saying this, but I'm trying to make a point too. But you look at them and you're like, how does that person have so much confidence? You know, and it's like, but they're so confident, it leads to everything they're doing in life. You know, like they're getting girls, they're building businesses. You know, they have this like unforeseen confidence, and that's the power of the brain too.
Yeah, absolutely.
But as the journey goes, you know, on the next step is kind of after you come from the dark place, you come into this spot of building, right? So you get out of the dark place and you come into this spot of building. Do you think that some of that stuff was building you towards what you would eventually become? Were you able to use those painful scenarios towards progress?
So there's a saying, I don't remember if it might have been Steve Jobs who said this. But he says you can't see the alignment of the stars looking forward. You can only see it looking backwards.
Oh yeah, I love that. He says that to Stanford in his famous Stanford speech.
Yeah,
connecting the dots.
100% believe that. So
Me too.
I couldn't have known what it was going to create, but this is what I come from.
Yeah,
so what I always came from. Even as a 4-year-old, this is where I came from. I'm like, okay, what can I do? If I have enough heart in it, I can figure it out along the way.
I 100% agree with that. And I in fact think we're connecting our dots right now. Mm-hmm. If you hadn't been through what you'd went through, if I hadn't went through what I'd went through, if we wouldn't have been entrepreneurs, if we wouldn't have gotten into training, we wouldn't be sitting at this table right now. Mm-hmm. Right? I could be in jail. You could be dead. You never know in life, right? Yeah. But all these connecting the dots, going through these hardships, going to school, building confidence, that's what brings us here today. And hopefully it's going to make some sort of impact. And none of that made sense while it was happening, right? We didn't think as, when my principal was telling me years ago, that like, you're never going to amount to nothing. Did I think it would lead to a heart for kids being bullied someday? Yeah. So that's why, I'm good with that now. I've used it to build me, I've used that pain. We talked about this before, and it's like, it's almost harder now when people believe in you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, using that motivation towards greater growth leveled me up. No problem. 120-hour weeks, no problem. School and work at the same time, no problem. 26 workouts a week, no problem. None of this stuff, any problem. Every day, I don't want to do that extra pull-up. You know what I tell myself? I tell them they wouldn't want you to get that extra pull-up either. When I'm sitting there at work, and I'm like 10 o'clock at night, and just like still working on something. I'm like, yeah, they'd all want you to put that book down too. Yeah. They'd want you to stop that work now. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to do that then. They're not going to win. Yep. But that's what I'm talking about, is using the stuff to build you. I think that, there's the gurus of this world saying, just be positive. Everything comes to you, And, I don't believe in the law of attraction. Mm-hmm. I think you do, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't believe that just by thinking positive and just by thinking I'm going to have a Ferrari, I don't want a Ferrari, but I don't think that stuff's going to come to me.
Yeah.
I think I have to go out there and get it. And not only that, but I think that painful stuff happens in our lives. And I think it's okay not to be positive about that. I'm saying be positive. You have to put a smile on your face, and you have to be optimistic every day of your life. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But if there's some stuff that makes you angry, I don't see a problem with using that stuff. And you've been handed this painful thing anyways, whether it's bullying, whether it's, things that have happened to you in life. You've been handed this situation, and you can store that somewhere deep and say, attract things to me. Or in my mind, you can take that thing, you can brace it, you can wear it like a badge of honor, and you can use it to make change. And not only that, but use it in a way that directs your heart towards making change for others too.
Yeah.
And that's where I think you hit the building phase of your journey. Whether you're studying the law of attraction, you're just out there being positive. And I'll never talk down, more than I just have on that. Hopefully I didn't beat it up too bad. It's just, I believe in being absolutely positive. I believe in being absolutely optimistic, and to be succinct about it. I think that bad stuff happens to really good people. And I think that since that thing happened to you, use it as a gift. And that's hard to say, because there's some people out there right now that like horrifying things have happened to. But then those people usually that these horrible things have happened to, if they can get past the part where they're defeated, that initial part of the warrior's journey, and they can get into this stage of progress where Luke is getting better and he's learning how to use the lightsaber, if they can start to use that lightsaber and change that into building them. And not only that, but those people usually have a huge heart too, because this stuff happened, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why you and I were talking before. I am so afraid of people like this not making it out of adolescence, because you can so easily ruin your life. And those people change the world. Go out there and read most books right now. It's somebody with like horrible stuff that happened to them in life. They somehow pulled through by their bootstraps. However they did it, positive attraction, or like I'm saying, use the pain, you know. I'm just going to call it use the pain.
Yeah.
So however they did it, now they became doctors that are curing cancer. They become, you know, people changing the world. They become, you know, billionaire business people. And from those business resources, they're curing polio and, you know, things of that nature. So that's the building phase of the journey, I think.
Yeah. Well, I look at, so everything has like a form of context behind it. And we figure out, okay, how are we going to put this context together? I'll give an example with the law of attraction. If you were to take a magnet, right, and you put the magnet on a refrigerator, it would attract.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a form of a law of attraction. It's not unnecessarily, okay, just feel good and just be positive and flow through life. It's gonna work. It's a law just like gravity.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you jump off a building, this will happen. Not, no, just grow wings and feathers and fly off into space and show the world that you're doing it. I think there's misconceptions in everything.
Yeah.
To be honest. Like I look at.
Well, maybe that's what's great about the difference between us on is you're explaining why the law of attraction works for you.
Yeah.
I am explaining why it doesn't work for me, or I don't think that way.
Yeah.
You know? So, well, I really hope that doesn't come off like I'm a negative person. You know?
No, I don't think you do. Like, I see you and your heart.
Yeah.
You know, that's what it comes down to. And one gift that I always had, and it would piss me off, I see people's hearts.
Yeah.
I hated it.
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk about a dark place?
Yeah.
The dark place was, why are people hurting me?
Mm-hmm.
Don't you know I care about you?
Yeah.
That was my dark place.
Yeah.
I'm like, I love everything and I can't help myself but to do it.
Yeah.
And it pissed me off.
Yeah. Because here you have this love.
Yeah.
And you're getting bitten for this love.
Yeah.
And it's I mean, nothing hurts more than being bitten by somebody you love.
Yeah.
You know? So that's the hardest type of, you know, heartache.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's it. It was the one good thing I had was, since I had love for others, I did have love for myself.
Yeah.
Because to truly have love for others, and some people will get this in due time, and some people have gotten it, and some people may never get it. You can't truly love people until you love yourself, not to the fullest level. Like when everything's working in alignment, you can love people at another level, at a deeper level.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to start it internally.
Well, and that's where you've gotten to now, right? So these days, you know, so you went through the dark place, you went through the building phase, you know, and now you're where you are now. Yep. You know, you're not at the end of the journey. There's still a lot more you want to do.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're starting to get past that building phase of the journey. Mm-hmm. And I really want you to talk about, because I think it's relevant. I want you to talk about Mr. N. I'm not going to say his name on the podcast, mm-hmm. but Mr. N, that was your client for years. Because you're doing a lot of coaching these days, you know. And so I want you to talk about Mr. N and how you've brought him into some of his own confidence.
Yeah, you know, it starts with infusing something into somebody nonstop, mm-hmm. Whether that's pushing it in or whether that's pulling it out of them, because it's in them. It's always been in them. And this goes back to the law of attraction again. This is very interesting.
Correct me if I'm wrong. He's another big guy.
Yeah.
That's probably got a lot of power, you know, but doesn't know that, you know.
Absolutely.
Kind of like Lenny of Mice and Men. Yeah. Not that he's simple like that, but just a big guy that doesn't know his power.
Yeah. He's a genius and he's strong. So the combination is pretty nice. But was interesting is I told him if he keeps at the way he's going and I keep at the way that I'm going, we are going to part.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is the way that the law works. Like if you take two negatives and you put them together, they're going to split apart.
Yeah.
If you take two positives and you try and put them together, they're going to split apart.
Yeah, but he's negative, you're positive.
Yeah, a positive needs a negative and a negative needs a positive.
Yeah.
But it's still coming from the same energy. Like
Yeah.
if you have an abundance is coming and an unabundant is coming, it's going to separate from one another. Or, so completely, I've got a question for you. If you were to take an immovable object and it met an unstoppable force, what would happen?
Are we talking true physics?
Yeah, true physics.
And say that one more time.
An immovable object and an unstoppable force.
My science brain's ticking. Because you've just used a double entente, basically.
Yeah.
I don't know. What happens?
They would go through one another. See, the unmovable object, it can't be stopped.
Yeah.
And the unstoppable force can't be stopped, and the unmovable object can't be moved.
Mm-hmm.
So when they meet, they're just going to pass through each other.
It's so funny because I'm thinking of all the forces applied to both of them and then trying to do the math equation in my head from so many years of studying physics. Yeah. And it's funny that you can get lost in those details and not think of what the simplicity of an answer can be.
Yeah. Lost in the details.
Yeah.
And so the same thing's true with like, okay, how do we stop bullying?
Yeah.
Well, we got to look at all the details.
Yeah.
We got to look at the stats
and
the numbers. Yeah, I had an idea of what it was. Just got to, if I love you and you love me, well, where's it at?
Yeah.
All of a sudden goes away.
Well, I think, obviously it's awareness and knowing somebody cares. And if I've learned anything, talking to people about the bullying subject, I'm trying to immerse into it as much as possible, so I'm understanding it. I'm learning that the biggest thing is we need to talk about it. We talk about, so one of the things that's my favorite mental deal in life is we talk about the biological food chain. Mm-hmm. And everybody's familiar with that from grade school. Even I paid attention, on that day. But we have the fly, and the fly is eaten by the frog, and the frog is eaten by the wolf, and the wolf is eaten by, whatever. So we have this cycle, food chain cycle, right? But then we pull one facet of the food chain out and the whole thing's destroyed. I call it a collateral nature. And we've made collateral such a bad word. But I love the word collateral, the collateral impact of things. So what's the collateral impact of awareness? What's the collateral impact of love? Put those in the chain, right? Because when we're talking about bullying, we know it leads to really awful events. Some of the worst events that's ever happened in this world. The Nazis were bullies. This is a horrible chain of events. So how do you stop this collateral impact of things?
Yeah. It's interesting because sometimes to stop it, it actually has to happen.
Yeah.
How do you become aware of something if it's never happened?
True.
And so I look at, I'm thankful for everything that's ever happened in my life. My biological leaving, my real dad staying.
Yeah.
My mom supporting me in the way that she could.
Yeah.
Me understanding things through my perspective lens in the way that I could.
Yeah.
Me going through my process and essentially looking at the stars backwards.
Yeah.
And saying, oh, well, here's the chain of events.
Yep.
And this is what happened and this is the result. And wow, what a beautiful thing.
I mean, I think that's wonderful. And we'll get a lot more chance to talk about this through the series. But so I want to mention next week we'll have Jessica on. She's a therapist. I'm really excited for her to come aboard. I haven't even told you about this, but she started out and she was trying to work in prisons with mass shooters and understand the psychology around what happened. And what she realized, I hope she's okay with me saying this, is that was a little too far down the road. what are you going to do to help at that point? That person's incarcerated, they've done their mass shooting, So she had to.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Jiu-jitsu,
yeah,
right? Sometimes it's already too late to do something.
Yeah.
Like if you're already in the arm bar, or
yeah,
you're already in the rear naked choke, or you're already in the thing, it's like too little, too late.
that's a great point. I mean, and she wanted to go back to the start of the problem, which is kids. So now she's been working with kids and bullying. And she's going to come in next week and she's going to talk to us about the best way to work with the guests to get the most impact and value to people listening to this program. So it's really exciting. I'm excited to have her on. So that's next week. We're still filling up the guest roster, by the way. And so we're going to preload some episodes and then start releasing them. So if you're somebody that wants to be on the show and talk about your journey, your hero's journey, then we'd love to have you on. We have some really interesting people in the lineup. And like I said, it's not just about fighters, Cliff and I are immersed in that community. So we tend to know a lot of those guys. So we'll have some on, but even like fitness people, I'm talking to a couple of those musicians, love to have an artist on, I want to talk about how to find confidence in communities and things, how to first awareness and then community. Cause you're a lot less likely when you don't feel alone. And it's hard for parents, even good parents, it's hard for even good parents to fill that space, especially as a kid. A kid wants a friend, wants a couple friends, wants to feel, this. And I get that. That's where that special spot in my heart, gets me, is like, I get that helplessness, but that makes me so sad when you get to the helplessness point where you don't want to be on the planet anymore. Yeah, big time. I'll tell you, so going through my journey, I didn't realize, because I have this polarizing, I have a look, right? And I have a title. Mm-hmm. And people see the look and the title. The thing that makes my coaching on another level, I'm relatable. Yeah. And so when people like, well, and that's what you're doing these days. Yeah. Like how do you relate to this? Yeah. We're all going to step into our arena. Yeah. It's only a matter of time. And whether that's being the best musician that you can be, the best basketball player, the best artist, the best teacher, the best coach, the best whatever it is you're looking to be, ultimately it's about getting your edge. That's what I help people do, is get their edge. That's perfect. I think that's a good spot to end it. Thanks for watching episode 1. Like I said, next week will be episode 2 with the therapist, and then we'll continue the lineup from there. I hope this helped. I hope it does help somebody. We're going to compile resources along the way. We're going to add those to the website so you have people to reach out to. I get the problem, and I get that this problem, if not stopped, can cause collateral impact down the road. So let's make the collateral positive instead of negative. Amen. All right. Thanks.
You've been listening to Bully This, A Hero's Journey. The effects on kids that are bullied are many. Increased risk for depression, anxiety, sleep difficulties, lower grades, and dropping out of school. It's a real problem, and that's why we created this show. We're acutely aware of the pain, shame, and damage that bullying causes, and our passion is to help kids and families to know that there is always help, that there is always a solution. We hope you've gotten some useful information from the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, find us on Facebook at Bully This, A Hero's Journey. Take care, and we'll see you next time.